Yeah, mag-base sa activity series of metal. So, di ba last time we ended with synthesis? Isa na ako siya discuss pati yung mga question about the single replacement. Di ba we ended with synthesis na reaction wherein we learned that if you have one element combining with another element, you will get a compound. And then all you need to do after is to balance the reaction. After that, we have the so-called decomposition reaction. This is the complete opposite of the synthesis reaction because your reactant here will just be a compound. And then afterwards, this compound will decompose into its component na elements or pwede din namang compound, depende siya sa compound na magde-decompose. So in this case, you will have the elements again. So therefore, this is the complete opposite of our synthesis reaction. So example, you have the compound here, magnesium oxide. Once this will decompose, it will give you magnesium and syempre, oxygen. But you need to take note that oxygen is a member of the diatomic molecules. If you can still remember the diatomic molecules, diba, we have the Birchnow or the Birchnow sum. And these are the elements that if they are not combined to other elements, they will exist in two atoms. So just like oxygen, since this is not combined to other elements, automatic, you will place a subscript na 2. So that is how the decomposition reaction works. You will have the component na mga elements na magse-separate. Okay? Okay, later, Ivy, ako na siyang tubagon after this one. And then, after that, this is reaction type number 1. This is number 2 here. And for number 3, we have the single replacement reaction. Okay, single replacement reaction. This reaction is actually dependent to the activity series of metal. So that is why in your laboratory, one part of the activity there is for you to list down the activity series of metal. And then I don't know if I have mentioned that in the video, but aside from the polyatomic ions, you can have your index card also for the activity series of metal kasi medyo marami ito and medyo mahirap kung ipamemorize na ko ni tanan sa inyo ha. Now that activity series of metal is a list from the most reactive metal to the least reactive. So yung nasa taas class like si lithium and si potassium, they are our most reactive metal. And since they are the most reactive, most likely they will react with other elements, especially anions, to form compounds easily. And yung mga nasa baba, lesser reactive na sila. Pero pagdating sa single replacement reaction kasi class, ganito. If you have, for example, let us start with potassium chloride plus sodium. Single replacement reaction ito ha. Potassium chloride and sodium. So sodium is a metal. That is why we will look at the activity series of metal. Pag metal ito, hanapin mo doon sa compound yung metal din. Kasi hindi pwede na yung papalitan ni sodium ay non-metal. Dapat metal din. So the case sa potassium chloride, si potassium is a metal. Remember, it also belongs to group 1A or the alkali metals, and then chlorine is a non-metal. So, supposedly, papalitan niya dapat yan. But before that, you have to look at the activity series of metal. Alin ba ang nauna? Si potassium or si sodium? Sa list. Ano nakalagay dyan sa na-research ninyo?
Potassium, ma'am.
Potassium, ma'am.
Okay, very
Potassium po,
good.
ma'am.
Si potassium ang nauna sa list, which means mas reactive si potassium kesa sa kay sodium. And in this case, if that is the case na this is considered less reactive, this is considered more reactive, your answer here should be NR. What do you mean by NR? That is no reaction.
No reaction.
Okay, so no reaction ito siya. Therefore, natubag na ko imong pangutana Kiana, dili pwede mapulihan sa less reactive na metal ang more reactive na metal. You will not have a reaction there. Okay? Dili na siya magkaroon og reaction. Pero if it's the other way around, what do I mean with the other way around? Example, you have sodium chloride here. And then, ipapareact natin siya kay potassium. Now, this is more reactive. This is less reactive. Mapildig yun na niya, class. And since mapildig na niya, we will have a reaction there. Papalitan niya ngayon si sodium. So, you will have KCl there and madi-displace si sodium. Okay? So, again, madi-displace si sodium. And then, after that, you have to check first whether the chemical formula is correct or not. In the case of potassium chloride. Kasi the first thing that you need to do is just to copy the symbols, combine the two of them, and then check whether you need a subscript or not. And to check whether your formula is correct or not, syempre, we will be looking at their charges. So remember, potassium belongs to group 1A, so this is definitely positive 1, and chlorine is negative 1, so this is equal to 0. We don't need to have a crisscross here, so definitely this is correct already. Now, we don't place 2 here for potassium and sodium as subscript because they are not included in the diatomic molecules. And if you look at the reaction, actually it's already balanced. So no need na for the balancing. Okay, questions? Anything else na nalibog pa about the single replacement reaction? Do not forget, class, to look at always the activity series of metal. Okay? Napabay pangutan na, ani? Wala na? So, ang number 4, Ana, is the double displacement. Double displacement reaction, or sometimes we call this the metathesis reaction. This time, exchange partners tayo. Therefore, if you look at the reaction for the double displacement, you will have one compound reacting with another compound, and then magfo-form siya ng two different compounds, pero yung component nila nag-exchange lang. So paano sila mag-exchange? Always remember, ang rule natin sa chemistry, opposite attracts. So the positive ion in the first element will combine now with the negative ion sa second element, and that is also true for the positive ion on the second element combining to the negative ion sa first element. So in this case, you will have AD plus CB. So ano nahimo nag-AD and CB? Di ba pag magsulat og chemical formula, always nauna si positive kaysa kay negative, and that is also true for this one. So syempre, positive here will combine now with the negative on the second compound, and the positive, so nauna siyang isulat sa second compound, will now combine with the negative sa first compound. That is why we have AD plus CB. So basig mangutana mo, pwede po siya unahon yung magsulat si CB and then AD. It's the same thing. Pwede rin gihapon nimo isulat ang kanang second na compound o una kung mao na imuhang nakita nga first product. As long as we will have, class, a double displacement reaction, exchange partners. So, na-mention dito sa video, one type of a double displacement reaction is the precipitation reaction. Pero ang sa precipitation reaction lang man good is makita nimo siya na you will have two aqueous na compound, meaning liquid na compound reacting to each other, and then may ma-form siya na solid na compound and another aqueous na compound. Yun lang yung specific na part sa precipitation reaction. Kasi again, ang original compounds reacting are both in aqueous solution, but in the product, you will have a solid substance na even if you stir it, you shake the container, dili yun siya ma-dissolve. That's how you know na that reaction, though double displacement pa rin, pero specific siya sa precipitation reaction. Okay? I think mo niyang pangutana kagainan ni kinsa to, nakalimut ko kinsa to ng utana.
Ako, ma'am.
Yeah, pero since we cannot memorize all the compounds in the world, minsan hindi natin siya mape-predict kung magpe-precipitate ba siya or not. Pero later I'll go back with the table kasi kung alam nyo yung table about sa solubility, minsan kahit hindi na natin siya i-research or hindi natin siya i-conduct sa laboratory, malalaman natin kung may mafo-form ba na precipitate or not. But for the sake of the discussion of the double displacement or metathesis, let me just give you an example. Wait lang ha, I'll just think. Example, you have here the NaCl, that's your acid, reacting with, for example, aluminum oxide. Okay, so again, NaCl plus aluminum oxide. Exchange partners lang yan sila, class. Hanapin nyo lang yung positive and negative. So this is positive 1 here. Tama? Sodium is group 1. Tapos si chlorine kay group 7A. Tapos pag group 7A, di ba, negative 1. And then aluminum nasa group 3. So this is positive 3. And then this is negative 2. So kaya nga meron silang subscript. Pag nag-exchange partners na yan sila, class, syempre ang positive na ito will now partner with the negative 1 here. Plus, the positive here, aluminum, will partner with the negative. Ayan, ganyan muna ang gawin ninyo. Ipagtabi nyo ang mga symbols. And then after that, you check whether the formula is correct or not. So just like in the case of sodium oxide, let us see whether we need a subscript here or not. Sodium is positive 1 again, and oxygen is negative 2. So definitely this is not equal to 0, so we need to do crisscross here, which means that the correct formula for sodium oxide is Na2O. So kung balik ta sa video, pila ata na kung giulit-ulit dito na please, pag nag-exchange partner sila, do not copy the subscript. So as you can see, I did not copy the subscript of aluminum and even the oxygen here. Kasi the subscript will be dependent on the charge of the elements na nag-combine. And then for aluminum chloride, AlCl, aluminum is positive 3 again, and chloride is negative 1. So ito naman, kailangan din ng crisscross. So you will have Al and then Cl3. So this time, we have made sure na tama na yung chemical formula natin. Kasi pag hindi yan tama, class, ang chemical formula na yan, dili gyud mo mahuman sa inyong balancing, ana. Again, hindi kayo matatapos sa balancing. Di gyud na ninyo siya mabalance, class, pag mali inyong chemical formula. So that's a hint for you. Anong dili ninyo siya mabalance. So let us try to balance this since I believe this is not a balanced equation. So you will have NaCl, AlO. Again, this side here is called the reactant side. And this side here is the product or products na side. Okay? And this is a reversible reaction. If you can see this two-headed arrow, ano na siya? Reversible reaction. Meaning, the products can actually also react again and then baliktad na naman. Magiging product na naman itong original reactant natin. So it's either a forward or a reverse reaction. So in balancing, sa reactant na side, we have 1 sodium, 1 chloride, 2 aluminum, and 3 oxygen. On the other side, you'll have 2 sodium, 3 chlorine, 1 aluminum, and 1 oxygen. So this is not balanced. I would like to start with sodium since nauna na naman siya dyan. So I'll place 2 here para mag-balance siya. But since this is a compound, so kasali dyan si chlorine, this will become 2 also. Pero hindi pala siya magiging balanced with the chlorine. So actually, this is not correct that we'll place 2 here. So let's go back to the original one. Ayan. So unahin ko na lang muna si chlorine kasi hindi naman pala siya mababalance kung unahin ko si sodium. Wait. Ayan. So, ang gagawin ko, this is, wait. Kailang ha, sulat na ito siya tama. Para na ako space. Okay. Oops, this is 1, mandi ay. Sorry. Alim din akong sulat. No, 2 na siya. This is 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 1. Sige. So, what should I do here now? Since hindi ko pala mabalance si chlorine, I would like to, since this is trial and error, I'll start with aluminum. Okay. Let me start with aluminum. I'll balance aluminum first, but since kasama niya si chlorine, this will become 6. Again, this will become 6 here. Let me try if I can balance this. And then, what else? I'll try to place 6 here. So this becomes 6 now. And sodium will also become 6. Now, hindi na siya balance sa pika. So I'll try to place 3 here. So 3 times 2, ginamultiply ang coefficient o ang subscript. So 3 times 2 is 6. I have balanced it already. Now my problem is oxygen na lang. But since isang entity sila, kapag kasi sodium ay nag-times 3, mag-times 3 din ako kay oxygen. So this becomes 3 also. So ngayon, balance na yung equation ko. So in the equation, I need 6 molecules of sodium chloride to react with 1 molecule of aluminum oxide to yield 3 molecules of sodium oxide and 2 molecules of aluminum chloride. So that is how you balance a chemical equation. If in the first try, it cannot be balanced, hanapan nyo ng paraan, class. You can assign different numbers to other elements until mabalance nyo siya. So patience is a virtue. Okay? Need ba magbutang ang subscript na mga SL and the like sa tanan products? Actually, I don't require you to label the compounds there as either solid or liquid or in aqueous solution. Hindi ko na siya, what do you mean? Kung sa example sa quiz or sa exam or sa inyong activity, kung lagyan pa niyan, no need na. Okay na ako sa ganito. Di ba ang sa activities ninyo, binigay ang reactant, all you need to do is to predict the products and balance the equation. So no need na ilagay niyo pa, for example, ito aqueous din. Ayan, no need na. Okay? Kasi we can actually see that if nag-experiment talaga tayo. Pero kung wala ta nag-experiment man good, we can just assume na this one is in aqueous solution and this one also is in aqueous na solution. You can just assume. Example, kanang polyatomic ions. Let me give you another example. Involving naman this time, this is still double displacement ha. Pero let me just use the polyatomic ion. Let me think first. Always muna i-determine kung anong type of chemical reaction before ka mag-predict ng products and before ka mag-balance. Mabalaan man na ninyo siya class before na ko ni-diretso akong example ha. Mabalaan na ninyo siya class. Example kung synthesis, meaning you will have an element combining with another element there. So synthesis na siya diretso. Pag decomposition, ang reactant na compound lang yun, isa ka buok na compound. That's how you know that that is a decomposition reaction. Example, I'll give you calcium carbonate. That is one compound only, arrow na siya diretso. So decomposition reaction na siya. Pero kung single replacement na siya, you will have a compound and you will have one element. That's how you know na single replacement siya. And lastly, pag double displacement, gina siya? Compound plus another compound. And katong last one, nga reaction, combustion reaction, you will know combustion reaction because you will have a carbon-containing compound. Again, carbon-containing compound or organic compounds to be specific, reacting with oxygen. Kasi pag magsunog manggod ta class, dili manggod possible ang combustion kung walay oxygen. So oxygen gina siya pirmi. And always gina siya pag combustion reaction, ang reactant niya pag complete combustion ha, complete meaning kompleto ang oxygen, you will have carbon dioxide plus water. So that's how you will know just by looking at the given kung anong klaseng reaction yung mangyayari. Okay? Wait. Mano na to ni ato ang example sa double displacement. Okay, wait lang. Ayan. Wait lang, naguna-una ko. Example, let's have sodium phosphate. Magnesium hydroxide plus sodium phosphate. This is our given na reactants. So this one involves polyatomic ions. So before ta mag-exchange of partners, let us have the positive and the negative parts of the compounds first. You have positive 2 for magnesium. And then, syempre, di ba, hydroxide is negative 1. So, kaya ka may 2 dyan na subscript kasi nag-criss-cross yan siya. For sodium, this is positive 1 originally. Ha? I'm not talking about the compound here. E kung compound na siya, positive 3 na siya ang total, ana. Kaya 3 ka buo. But, for phosphate, this is negative 3. So that is why nag-criss-cross yan sila. Now, kung alam mo na kung aling part dyan ang positive and negative, we can predict now the new compounds, the products. So magnesium will now partner with phosphate. Ayan. And then, that's the first step, ha? Just combine the symbols. para di ta maglibog. And then sodium will now be with the hydroxide. And then pag na-partner nyo na sila, dyan pa kayo class mag-determine ng charges kung kailangan ba natin mag-crisscross or hindi. So let's start with magnesium phosphate. What is the charge of magnesium again? It's positive 2. How about phosphate? It's -3 that we have written that one sa reactant na side. So this is positive 2 plus -3 is -1. So definitely, kailangan na to mag-crisscross. So magnesium will have the 3 here as the subscript and phosphate will take the 2. So since this is a polyatomic ion, we need to place it inside an open and close parenthesis and sa gawas ang iyahang subscript. Okay, so that is the correct chemical formula of magnesium phosphate. And then for NaOH, Na is +1, OH is -1. So we don't need to do the crisscross here. So this is now the correct chemical formula for our products. But this is not a balanced equation. So how are we going to do the balancing for this? My suggestion, I don't know if na-appeal ba to sa video. My suggestion for polyatomic ions is we will count them as one entity. We will not separate the components. Kaya kung, actually, pwede ragyod kayo na ninyo i-separate. Like si magnesium hydroxide, si oxygen, o si hydrogen, i-separate na to. Pero pag i-separate nato na class, dugay kayo mo mahuman sa balancing. Ugma pa mo mahuman. So, ang pinakadali nga himuon is to not separate them. Therefore, isusulat ko siyang OH. Hindi ko i-break yung kanyang components na oxygen and hydrogen. Bakit? Kasi yung OH dito sa reactant, OH pa rin naman siya sa product. Di naman sila naghiwalay. So, pwede rin siyang i-count na lang as one. And then we have sodium. And for phosphate, as you can see, PO4 siya dito sa reactant. Pero PO4 lang din siya sa product. So, I'll count them as one also. So, we will have PO4. Okay? So, we have 1 magnesium, 2 hydroxide, 3 sodium, 1 phosphate. Again, this is counted as one hand, not 4. Kasi ang 4 para kay oxygen lang yan siya. And that is really the chemical formula for phosphate, PO4. And then magnesium is 3. Phosphate here, the subscript is 2, meaning you have 2 phosphates on the product na side. And sodium is 1, OH is 1. So hindi talaga balanced ang ating equation. So what shall I do? Maybe I can start with magnesium. So let's try to place 3 here. So this becomes 3. And then, kasama niya si hydroxide. So 3 times 2, i-multiply natin sa subscript. Hydroxide becomes 6. So maybe I'll write 6 here. So that the hydroxide will also be 6. But since kasama niya si sodium, sodium will also become 6. Now, hindi na sila balance. So, I'll try putting 2 here. So, 2 times 3 is, syempre, 6. Kasama niya si phosphate. So, instead of 1, this is 1 here times 2. So, phosphate becomes 2 also. So, this time, this is already balanced. So, inganaon ninyo siya balance ha sa polyatomic ions. Kaya pag ihiwalay ninyo na, remember si OH na ay oxygen, si phosphate na apoy oxygen. Pag ibulag na ninyo silang duha-dugay, kay mo mahuman og balance. So, anaon na lang, please, if you want to take my suggestion, anion na lang ninyo siya. So all in all, we have 3 molecules of magnesium hydroxide reacting with 2 molecules of sodium phosphate. And after the reaction, the products will be 1 molecule of magnesium phosphate plus 6 molecules of sodium hydroxide. Okay, so did I answer your question, girly?
Yes po, ma'am. Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay. Questions pa? Wala na? Nagkasinabot na ta sa ato ang types of chemical reaction. Magkalisangan ng balancing class. Dili man good na siya kanang totally lisud jud kaayo if you just know the process and follow the process. And then patience is a virtue lang. Example sa combustion. Okay. Example sa combustion. Wait, let me go back with the whiteboard. For the combustion reaction, let's have the organic compounds. Example, ang ginagamit sa magluto nowadays, butane. So, sino ang gumagamit dito ng butane? Butane, but means 4, meaning meron yan siyang 4 na carbon, 4 plus 2 is 6. And 6 na hydrogen. Anyway, sa finals, I'll teach you the organic compounds para kabalusad mo paano ginahimo ang chemical formula for organic compounds. Kay lahi na siya og rules sa inorganic. So, always remember, pag combustion reaction, ang meron dito, carbon-containing compound, just like butane. This is the chemical formula of butane. And then reacting with oxygen. Kapag ka nakakita kayo ng ganito class, automatic combustion reaction, and automatic, since we will assume that we will have a complete combustion, you will always have 2 products here. Hindi nagbabago ang products na ito for combustion, complete combustion. Carbon dioxide plus water lang yun na siya. Okay? Carbon dioxide and water. So, after that, wala na jud kayo mo i-predict nga, products. Matik na yan. Ang inyuhan na lang himuon is to balance the equation. So, you only have 3 elements here. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, we have 4 here. Hydrogen is 6, oxygen is 2, carbon is 1 here, oxygen is 2 plus 1 here, so 3, and then you have 2 hydrogen. So this is not really a balanced equation. And patience is a virtue, kay mag-trial and error ta. Nga naman, let's see later unsaon siya pag trial and error. I'll try to place 4 here just to balance the carbon. Nakasama niya si oxygen, di ba? So this is 4 times 2 is 8. Plus remember, you have another 1 here. So a total of 9 oxygen. Now, paano gani ulit na carbon dioxide of water? If nagsusunog tayo ng organic compounds, any organic compounds, meaning may carbon siya, pag sinunog natin yan, always yan siya magre-react with oxygen. So the flame will not be there if walang oxygen. Tapos, always yan siya na pag nagsunog tayo ng carbon-containing compounds, carbon dioxide at water lang talaga ang mafo-form. Wala nang ibang products. So, automatic yan siya. Again, carbon dioxide and water. Pero these are all gases. So, kung di ba makita nato pag magsunog ta, na ay gas na ma-form, actually, duha na sila kabuo. Carbon dioxide na gas ug water vapor. Now, asa na ito? 9 na to, no? So, I'll try to balance the hydrogen. I'll place 3 here. So, this becomes 6. But again, kasama niya si oxygen. So this becomes now 4 plus 2 is 8 plus 3 times 1 is 3. This is equal to 11. So 11 na siya. Now, I only have here na pwedeng lagyan ng coefficient for oxygen. If you can see some chemical reactions sa internet, merong iba gumagamit ng fraction, pero actually, sa atin, let's just use whole number. So, let's just use whole number. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So, definitely mahimo na siya fraction. And since fraction siya, meaning this 4 here is not possible. Meaning you need to go back. You need to repeat this one. So let's delete everything. Kay mo balik ta sa uno. Muna akong ginaingon nga trial and error and kailangan ninyo og patience. So kay dili man pwede ang 4 dinhi. So I'll place 2 here. Ano nabutang ko diha 2? Kagaina 1 man na siya dinha. Pag wala kay ginabutang diha, ano man na siya, di ba? 1 automatic. So mahimo ni siya 2 times 4, this will become 8. 2 times 6, this will become 12. Di man pwede ang 1 kagaina dinhi. Ito gibutangan ako 4 diri kagaina. So dili to siya pwede. This time, akong ibutang here is 8. So nag-double up ta. This will become 8. Kasama niya si oxygen. So 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 here. This becomes 17. Now, ang next kong ibabalance is si hydrogen. This is 12 already here. So I'll place 6 here. And this becomes 12. Now, how about the oxygen? Siyempre, magbabago yan siya. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 times 1 equals 6. So a total of 22. So 22 divided by 2 is 11. So I'll place 11 here. So this becomes 22 now. So this is now the balanced equation if sunugin natin si butane para may flame tayo na ma-produce. So this is it. 2 molecules of the butane reacting with 11 molecules of oxygen, and then it will yield 8 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water. We call this class complete combustion. Complete combustion ito. For example, sa Bunsen burner, diba sa Bunsen burner, sa inyuhang activity number 1, you have learned there na meron tayong 2 types of flame na pinuproduce ni Bunsen burner, the yellow flame and the blue one. This is the non-luminous, this is the luminous. So si non-luminous, yan yung complete ang combustion, meaning in every 2 molecules of butane, merong 11 molecules na oxygen. You will have the heat here, aside from the carbon dioxide and the water. Pero paano kung incomplete ang combustion? Anong ibig sabihin ng incomplete ang combustion? Hindi enough ang oxygen. Meron kang 2 molecules ni butane, pero hindi mo na-provide ang 11 na oxygen. Example, 5 oxygen lang. Incomplete combustion yan siya, class. And you will have a yellow flame for that. Okay, mao lang na siya ang difference ni complete o ni incomplete combustion. And then another difference is aside from the carbon dioxide, the water, and the heat, syempre ang heat ka ng sa form sa flame, pag incomplete combustion, meron pang excess carbon na ma-form. And in layman's term, we call it soot. And mabalaan ninyo nga incomplete ang combustion class. Kay example, if you have there an evaporating dish, di ba puti atong evaporating dish, no? Na muitom na siya dinhi, muitom na siya iyahang bottom na part, and that is the excess carbon na na-form or ang soot na ginatawag. That's the indication na incomplete ang combustion. So parihas lang pud na pag magluto gani mo, pag mo ito nga nang lubot sa inyong kaldero dinha, meaning ana there is incomplete combustion. So ang gisunog nato class na carbon containing gas dinha sa inyong mga xylene, unsa pa na butane or kanang mga gasol na inyong ginagamit dinha, kulang ang oxygen, so yellow ang ma-form na flame, and there will be an excess carbon, mag-deposit na siya dito sa lubot sa inyong kaldero mo na siya mo itom. Ang tawag nato ana again kay soot. Okay? Labi na og inyong gamiton kay either uling or unsa gani na anang kahoy. So incomplete pud na siya nga combustion. So dili lang heat, dili lang carbon dioxide or water, pati excess na carbon. So are we clear about that? Questions pa? Okay na imuhang pangutana Kiana, na-answer na ba na ako to?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. How about the others? Na oras. I still have time. Sige. Since I still have time, let us continue. Again, nag-start tong video sa precipitation reaction. Pag precipitation reaction class ha kay you will have the formation of the precipitate, and when you say precipitate, it's a solid substance that cannot be dissolved in your solution. So kung saan ni mo guyog din ha, or stir or shake, wala gid kay mabuhatan na kay dili gyud na siya ma-dissolve. So just like in the case of the lead nitrate, this is in aqueous solution, reacting with potassium iodide, another aqueous na solution. And then if you look at the products there, you will have the lead iodide and the potassium nitrate. And then the lead iodide is actually insoluble in aqueous solution. Thus, it will solidify and mao na siya imuhang mahimo na precipitate. So just like in the example, kung sa laboratory pa nato ni siya gibuhat, kanang yellow din ha, mao na inyuhang lead iodide. Okay? Sige. Unsa na siya?
Ay, ma'am. Okay na ay, ma'am.
Okay. Sige. Ayan, and mao ni siya katong nag-ask paano mabalaan ma'am kung mag-form siya og precipitate or dili. How can we know even if we don't research or even if we don't conduct an actual experiment, actually we still have a way to know if merong mafo-form na precipitate or wala. And that is through the solubility of our compounds in water. Kasi we can actually predict whether they are soluble, slightly soluble, or insoluble using this table. Mo ni siya ang table nato class for the solubility. And then dito sa video na mention nako dito na kani sila pag ang compound gani na ay alkali metals, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and even ammonium. Kahit paano yung partner nila, class, again, kahit na ano pa yung partner nila, example, lithium chloride, lithium hydroxide, basta may mga alkali metals, matik silang soluble. So wala kang makukuha na precipitate dyan. Hindi sila mag-precipitate. Aside from that, the nitrates, if they are component of the compound, example, sodium nitrate o kaya calcium nitrate. Basta may nitrate ka dyan, again, soluble din siya sa water. So, hindi ka class magkakaroon ng precipitate dyan. Aside from that, we have the acetates, the bicarbonates, chlorates, and even the perchlorates. They are all soluble to water. And for the halides also, they will be soluble sa water. Pag sinabing halides, we are referring to halogen. Again, we are referring to halogen here. And meron lang siyang exceptions. Again, meron siyang exceptions ha. Kapag ka ang partner ni halide ay either silver, mercury 1, this is counted as mercury 1, though positive to ang nakalagay pa, but since 2 molecules siya dyan, that is the mercurous or the mercury 1, and the lead na 2, lead 2. Kapag ganun yung partners ni halides class, hindi sila soluble sa water. And this time, kapag tingin mo sa products mo class, merong either silver chloride o kaya HgCl. Ayan. Example like that. And what is this? PbCl2. Pag merong ganito class, automatic this will become the precipitate. Kasi again, asa sila na belong? Insoluble sila. Okay, that's how you know na ay precipitate na na-form sa akuang reaction. That is also true for other halides. Ha? Example, silver bromide or mercurous bromide. Basta kana silang tatlo partnered with halogens, insoluble. Mahimo sila precipitate. Now, the sulfates are actually also soluble. It's just that may exceptions lang din. Silver, like silver sulfate, calcium sulfate, strontium sulfate, barium sulfate, mercury sulfate, and lead sulfate. They are all insoluble sa water. So, ang tendency pod pag products pod sila sa ato ang reaction, they will actually be the precipitate. Kung product sila ha, mahimo silang precipitate. The rest na mga sulfates are soluble. So, walang precipitate na ma-form. Now, ito yung mga insoluble sa class? Mga insoluble na sila sa water, and ang tendency nila is to form a precipitate during the reaction. So what are those? We have the carbonates, the phosphates, and chromates, and even the sulfides. Kaya lang may exception. Pag ang partner ng mga polyatomic ions na yan ay alkali metal or ammonium ion, magiging soluble sila sa water and hindi sila magpo-form ng precipitate. So example, sodium carbonate. So this is carbonate but ang partner niya ay sodium, which is a member of the alkali metal. Ito ay magiging soluble in water. To compare that, for example, ang na-form na compound is calcium carbonate. So si calcium ay hindi na belong sa alkali metals, and syempre ammonium na ito. So this time, ito na yung tinatawag natin na insoluble. And if ma-form siya during the reaction, this will be solid. This will become the precipitate. So that's how you know, class, kung magpo-form ba ng precipitate or hindi. You can actually include this one also in your index cards. The hydroxides are also insoluble except for those na pag ang partner ni hydroxide ay alkali metal or the barium ion, magiging soluble siya just like NaOH. This is soluble sa water, though meron kang presence ni hydroxide dyan. Or barium hydroxide. So kahit na may presence ni hydroxide dyan, since barium ang partner niya, soluble pa rin siya. Okay? So yan yung tandaan ninyo to predict whether a precipitate will be formed or hindi. So these are just examples of the precipitate na ma-form if magkakaroon tayo ng laboratory experiment. They come in different colors. Just like this one, this is the cadmium sulfide. Remember, the sulfides are insoluble in water. This one naman is lead sulfide, it's color black. This is nickel hydroxide. Remember, ang last na sinabi ko kanina, hydroxides are insoluble in water except kung alkali metals or barium ang partner. But since nickel is a transition metal, you will really have there the precipitate. It's color green. And lastly, we have the aluminum hydroxide. So dito sa video, nagsugod na tuog acids and bases na. So let us continue. Hindi ko na sila isa-isahin unless lang kung may question kayo about acids and bases. Do you have questions for our acids and bases? I think dito ako magsa-start ngayon sa acid and base reaction. Okay. Wala. So let's have here another type of reaction. This is still class under the double displacement. So again, the umbrella here, the type of chemical reaction is double displacement. Pero hindi siya mahuhulog na precipitation reaction because we will not have a solid substance here. Now what is unique is this is the reaction between an acid and a base. So always yan siya class na kapag magre-react si acid and si base, ang products niyan ay salt and water. Again, acid plus base, the products will be salt and water. Actually, this is the #1 question in our board exam. When I took the board exam, syempre dito parehas sa board exam because I'm a pharmacist and medtech man mo. So dito parehas ang board exam. Sa among boards, daghan kaayo og chemistry. That is the first area. And this is the first question. I took the board exam January 2012. So 2012 pa ko ni pasa og board exam. Di ko kalimot gyud sa number 1 nga question, tapos the rest of the questions dili na nako mahinumduman hangtod karon. Kanilang yun number 1, nabilin siya sa akong utok kay sure jud ko nga tama akong answer. We have salt and water. The question is, what are the products of the reaction of acids and bases? Salt and water. Before magod the board exam, I was actually complaining to our teacher nga nag-accompany sa mo during the boards na feeling na ko walay unod akong utok, sige ra jud ko gyaw-yaw, walay unod akong utok, kana lang feeling na ko blanco, naglutaw ko, and then I woke up early, very early kay alas 7 man ang board exam. So nag-worry ko, nganong walay unod akong utok sayo sa buntag, naglutaw. Nag-iingnan man ko niya nga, okay ra na ray sa kay pag basa nimo sa number 1 nga question, mabala na ni mo nga naday ni unod imong utok. Ano siya sa ako So pagbasa na ako sa question number 1 kay kabalo mo ko sa answer kay ngon ko naday unod akong utok ato during the board exam. And thus, naka-answer mo ko sa board exam, nakapasa mo ko sa boards. So naday unod ang ako ang utok. Pero I cannot remember the other questions anymore. Right after the boards, nablanko na, nawala na silang tanan, and I cannot remember how I answered the questions, na the rest na questions sa boards. Yan, nakulbaan sila sa kuwang anong dili daw kumutingog after the board exam. Siyempre, dili kumutingog wala ko yung naalala. Sige mo sila discuss nga, katong question daw sa ingani, kay mao daw to ang answer, tapos kani nga question, mao po tong answer, siguro hunahuna na, dito yung nga question, wala lagi ko yung maalala. So, hantod karon wala ko yung maalala during the board exam. But at least na ko'y license, so wala na ko'y labot kung dili na ko ito maalala or dili. But let's go back to the acid and base neutralization. Alala lang na ko siya kay number 1 question man. So this is an acid here in aqueous solution, the hydrochloric acid, or that is what we call the muriatic acid. And then we have the base here, the sodium hydroxide. And as you can see, class, actually exchange partners lang gihapon ni sila mo na nga under gihapon sa metathesis or double displacement. So, di ba we have positive, negative, positive, negative. So, hydrogen will now partner with OH. This is HOH here, and if we simplify HOH, you will get H2O. So, that is why we have water here. And then sodium will partner with chlorine. That is why we have here the sodium chloride. Exchange partners or double displacement gihapon. So again, neutralization reaction is still under the double displacement. And automatic manggod na siya, class, na the products will be salt and water. The salt is not necessarily sodium chloride, ha. If we say salt, it is the combination of a positively charged ion and negatively charged ion. Yan yung tinatawag nating salt. Ang literal lang kasi tinatawag natin itong table salt. Kaya ito talaga yung maiisip natin pag sinasabing salt. Pero if I give you another example here, salt and water pa rin ito siya, class. You have there the hydrocyanic acid, which is actually a weak acid because it does not completely ionize in water, reacting with a strong base, the sodium hydroxide. Exchange partners pa rin. Na will now partner with the cyanide. That is why you have there the sodium cyanide. Kasi positive ito, negative siya. And then, the hydrogen here will partner now with OH. So you will have HOH. To simplify, that is still water. Now, this is water here. And NaCN is still called a salt. Yan, salt man siya. Again, positive, negative. That's the composition of a salt. So, neutralization reaction pa rin, class, kahit na weak ang iyong acid, strong ang iyong base, or the other way around, strong ang acid, weak ang base, neutralization reaction pa rin yan siya. Okay? So, kaya, class, diba, sa mga conditions like hyperacidity, daghan kaayog nag-hyperacidity karong mga panahona, maybe due to unsay hinungdan nga ng mag-hyperacidity. Number 1, di ka mukaon og sakto. Number 2, ang imuhang ginakaon kay mga either acidic or fatty foods. Or number 3, stress ka. Pwede ka mag-hyperacidity. And then remember, ang acid na nasa stomach natin is hydrochloric acid. So, di ba kapag nag-hyperacidity ka, ang iniinom natin yung mga tinatawag na antacids. Are you familiar with the antacids? Like brands man gid na permi ang
Yes, ma'am.
Chem101, Simeco.
Omeprazole.
The omeprazole, if mag-learn mo about tambal, omeprazole is actually a histamine antagonist. That is not actually an antacid. Again, this is not a histamine agonist. This is a proton pump inhibitor. Proton pump inhibitor. So this is not an antacid. Ang antacid man good, diretso gyud siya diri sa hydrochloric acid mag-react. Si omeprazole lahi man gud niyang mechanism of action para matambalan niyang either hyperacidity, ang ulcer or ang GERD kanang acid reflux. Kani man gud proton pump inhibitor, inhibit niya ang pag-release sa hydrogen. Remember, we need hydrogen to form the hydrochloric acid. So without this proton pump, there is no hydrogen. Walay daghang acid na ma-form. Pero pag moingon ka og antacid, diretso na siya. Wala na siya yung mga i-inhibit sa lawas na mga receptor or mga pump, pero diretso siya mag-neutralize sa acid nato. Pareha sa Chem101. Ang Chem101, ang component niya class kay magnesium hydroxide ug aluminum hydroxide ug simethicone. Mao na siya ang component sa ginainom ninyo nga Chem101. So kana sila mag-react na siya diretso sa acid. So isa-isa ha, dili tibuokon og chemical equation. So exchange partners. Hydrogen will partner with the OH, so you will have HOH there, or simply water. And then magnesium here will partner with the chloride, so you will have magnesium chloride. If we check the charges, magnesium is +2, chlorine is -1, so crisscross. The correct chemical formula of magnesium chloride is MgCl2. And then all you need to do is balance the equation. So since neutralization reaction ito, you will have the formation of the salt and syempre the water. That is the same with aluminum hydroxide. Syempre ano man siya, component man siya sa Chem101, so mag-combine po siya kay hydrochloric acid, that is our gastric acid, forming AlCl3. Sulatan ako daan ng correct formula ha, kay Al is +3, chlorine is -1, so mag-crisscross AlCl3 plus HOH, this is still water. So always good na siya class, pag neutralization reaction, we have the salt and then we have the water. Mao na siya ang action ni antacid kapag ka naga-hyperacidity mo. Okay? Salt and water lang na siya to get rid of the excess na acid. Pero di po pwede nga mawadan tag-acid sa stomach ha. We need that for digestion. Kailangan nato na for digestion. Dili lang nato gusto na daghan kaayo tag supply sa acid. Pero basig mangutan namon, ma'am, unsa man ang simethicone? Simethicone is an anti-flatulent. Ano meaning sa anti-flatulent? Para sa layman's term naman. Kanabit ang buturan, gani mo. Unsa tawag ninyo anak? Kana mapunog gas inyong tiyan.
Kabag ba, ma'am?
Yeah, kabag.
Kabag?
Ay sa Tagalog, kabag. Kanang pag inyuhang
Panuhot.
Panuhot. Ano ninyo yung tiyan? Murag na drum sa sulod. Kay puno og hangin. So, ginabutan na.
Ma'am? Bloated?
O, bloated ka, nakay daghang gas sa sulod. Mo na siya. Ngano man, kasi kaning water manggod diri, this is in the form of gas. Mo na siya ang magtapok class sa imuhang tiyan. Mo na you will feel na murag na ay drum sa sulod gatingog. So to get rid of the gas, maupod ni siya nganong ginabutangan og simethicone ang Kreml-S. That's anti-flatulent. That's how our drug works. So that's again for Kreml-S. And then basig mangutan na mo, ma'am, nganong duha man jud na magnesium hydroxide ug aluminum hydroxide. Dili pwede isa na lang kay parehas lang man ilang action, di ba? Neutralization reaction. Actually gina-partner na siya class kay tanan tambal class nagi na siya side effect. Ma-synthetic man na siya nga tambal or what do you call that? Mga kanang natural products like coming from the plants man na siya, mga herbal preparation, may side effect gud na siya. Dili pwede ang tambal walay side effect. Unya, kani si magnesium pag magdaghan ni sa atong sulod sa body mag-cause manig diarrhea, so I call it magtae. And then si aluminum pag mudaghan na siya sa ato ang body mag-cause man na siya constipation, so I call it alatae. That's how I remember whether the metal can cause diarrhea or constipation. So, magnesium, magtae, aluminum, alatae. Pag daghan na sa inyong lawas class, mag-cause nag-diarrhea or mag-cause of constipation. So, manang i-partner sila. Kapag i-partner silang duha, they will cancel out the constipation and the diarrhea of each other. So, muna nga duha. Okay? Yes, Fatima, magbalancing gihapon ta sa neutralization reaction. Walang nako to gi-balance kagaina. Kaya akong ginapakita lang sa inyo ha is exchange partners gihapon, double displacement reaction gihapon pag abot sa neutralization reaction. Unsa ganitong naibumbero na commercial sa antacid? Unsa ganito? I'm not sure also class dili uso man gud ang TV diri sa among balay ba? Wala mo ko nagatanaw og TV good, wala ko'y time magtanaw og TV. Nala ko'y time mag fangirling pero wala ko'y time magtanaw og TV man good. So mga advertisement nga na bumbero. Kasi si Meko, ang si Meko parehas na sila sulod ni Kreml-S. Parehas ra gyud kaayo. Sodium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, and simethicone. Okay, question so far about the neutralization reaction? Naapa ba? Okay, mag-move on ta. I still have a little time left. Acid-base reaction forming gases. Now, we have class certain basic substances na pag mag-react sila sa acid, they don't really form automatically salt and water, but instead they will form gases. So unsa ni siya na mga basic substances katong naay carbonate. Sa example ana syempre sodium carbonate kana, and then bicarbonates like sodium bicarbonate, they are considered bases class. The same thing with the sulfites and the sulfide. Pag ito sila, they are also considered as bases. Pag mag-react sila sa acid, unsa ang ma-form? Gaseous products. And let's see unsa nga gas ang ilahang ma-form. Let's take for example the sodium carbonate. Again, the sodium carbonate, we have there NaCO3. This is still exchange partners, by the way. Sodium carbonate is -2, hydrogen is +1, chlorine is -1. So sodium will partner now with the chlorine. That is why you have there the sodium chloride. And then hydrogen will partner with carbonate. So hydrogen will now partner with carbonate, but since hydrogen is +1, carbonate is -2, we will do the crisscross here, which means this is the correct formula for our carbonic acid. We call this carbonic acid. Do not forget our lesson sa prelim sa katong naming ha. Sa ato ang oxo acids. Okay? So mao ni siya class ang original nato na chemical equation. And as you can see, gina-balance gihapon na siya. But in actual experiments kasi, carbonic acid is actually unstable. Again, unstable na siya. Meaning, kung unstable na siya, it will undergo decomposition reaction. This is here a neutralization reaction under the double displacement. But the second chemical equation here is actually a decomposition reaction. Nganong nag-decompose? Because carbonic acid in actual is unstable. Dali siya mag-separate into components. But this time, dili nimo siya ibutang og H plus carbonate ion ha, kasi mga ions man ni sila class. And we don't do that in our chemical equation. Okay? We don't give this one in our chemical equation kasi ions yan sila, meaning ana kailangan nato og compounds class in our products for the decomposition. So what are the compounds na product of decomposition of carbonic acid? We have here the water and the carbon dioxide. And itong carbon dioxide na ito ang sinasabi doon sa previous slide na magpo-form siya ng gaseous na product. So this is a neutralization reaction, but it will form a gaseous product in actual experiment due to the decomposition of the carbonic acid. So some chemist or scientist will write the formula as this one. Kino-combine nila si neutralization reaction and si decomposition reaction. So as you can see, we have here sodium bicarb. This time this is sodium bicarb plus hydrochloric acid. You still have NaCl there. Remember, Na will partner with the Cl and hydrogen will have the bicarbonate forming supposedly H2CO3, pero magde-decompose man yan siya into water and carbon dioxide. So again, minsan ginagawa nilang combination ang neutralization reaction and decomposition reaction. That is also true for the sulfite. Example here, you have the sodium sulfite reacting with hydrochloric acid. Supposedly kasi mag-exchange partners yan sila, 'di ba? Sodium will partner with the Cl, so you will have here NaCl, plus hydrogen will partner now with the sulfite. So hydrogen plus the sulfite, hydrogen is +1, sulfite is -2, so mag-criss-cross ka dyan. You will have supposedly H2SO3 here, or the sulfurous acid. But just like the carbonic acid, sulfurous acid is also unstable. So it will also undergo decomposition reaction. And if it undergoes decomposition reaction, it will give off water plus the sulfur dioxide. So yan yung magiging products kapag kasi sulfurous acid magde-decompose. And sulfur dioxide is a gas. Now, pag pinag-combine natin yung neutralization reaction and ang decomposition reaction, ito na yung magiging chemical equation. Sodium sulfite plus hydrochloric acid equals sodium chloride plus water plus sulfur dioxide. So again, saan galing ito? Water plus sulfur dioxide, galing siya actually kay sulfurous acid na unstable. Okay? And that is also true for the sulfide. The example ng sulfide dito is the potassium sulfide reacting with an acid. Exchange partners, dapat yan sila class. K will partner with Cl, so you will have KCl there. And then, exchange partners lang talaga ito. And then hydrogen will now partner with the sulfide. So hydrogen is +1, sulfide is -2. So crisscross. So you will have hydrogen sulfide here. And hydrogen sulfide is actually a gas. So ito ngayon class, ang neutralization Di ba sabi ko kanina, pag neutralization, always salt and water. But if your bases contain carbonate, bicarbonate, sulfite, and sulfide, ito sila ang magfo-form ng gas. So this is exception to the rule na salt and water ang neutralization reaction. Questions? Actually, salt and water lang gihapon na pag-atuan, nagud na silang i-combine. Parehas ani, this is salt and you have water. May extra lang talaga tayo na gas. This is salt here, we have water here, and then we have another gas. But for sulfide, you will just have the salt and the gas. So wala kang water for the sulfide. So salt ha is any compound na positive o negative. Ionic siya na compound. May positively charged ion and may negatively charged ion. Questions about this? Kinsay nalibog. Kinsay nalibog din ha sa ato ang neutralization reaction. Tandaan ninyo, pag naay bicarb, carbonate, sulfite, and sulfide, naay gas na ma-form. Pero pag dili nga na class, walay katong apat na ano lang gina siya, salt and water sa neutralization reaction. Okay? Anything else? Mo po na ang ginahimo class kapag ka ma-poison gug ka og acid. Example. Pero this one is a complicated one. Dili na ko ibutang ang chemical formula ha kay puto atong utok. Example, naglaklak ka og aspirin. Grabe gilaklak gyud ang aspirin. Kailan mo aspirin no? Tambal na aspirin. Okay, ang aspirin man good, ang chemical name ana niya acetyl salicylic acid. So kung ato na siyang inomon, daghan kaayo, so ma-poison ka ana nga acid. Ang ginahimo nato, pag example, isugod ang patient sa hospital tapos nag-poisoning siya ani. Actually, ginapa-alkalinize ang urine ana. So hatagan og tambal ang patient na mahimo og basic ang iyahang urine. Ngano man, kasi the acid nga iyahang giinom, tapos ang base na substance nga gihatag sa iyaha will form salt and water. And kani man gud silang duha, si salt, syempre soluble man na siya sa water, and since ni daghan ang imuhang water class, daghan imuhang urine, mas dali na siya ma-excrete. Okay? So ang imuhang giinom class nga acid, mapaspas ang iyahang excretion via the urine kung himuon nimo siya og salt and water. Mao na nga ginapareact nato siya sa base. Mao na ang ginahimo sa mga doctor and sa mga nurses kapag there is poisoning of an acidic substance. Kung basic substance man pud ang nainom, ang ilahang ginahimo is to acidify the urine. Urine ang gina-acidify ha. Para pag abot class sa tambal dito sa kidneys, mag-react siya with the acidic na urine, mag-form siya salt and water, and the salt and water are readily excretable. Okay? Ang urine ang ginapa-acidify. Wala ko nag-ingon class nga, pag moinom pag example accidentally nakainom og hydrochloric acid ang inyong patient, paimno ninyo siya sodium hydroxide, dili pwede ana ha. Though that is called neutralization reaction, pero we don't do that. Ang tawag ana class but siya double kill. Nganuman nasunog na iyang esophagus sa hydrochloric acid, sunugon na pud nimo ulit kay gipainom nimo og sodium hydroxide. Dili ing ana ang ginamina ko nga neutralization reaction. Pag nakainom og acidic nga substance, ang urine ang ginapa-acidify sa kidney nga part. So naa sila mga certain lang na mga substances na ginagamit to do that. Okay? So dili pwede strong acid, strong base imong gipainom ha. Wala pud nato class ginapasuka ang ato ang mga patients nga nakainom og either acid or base. Kay ang tawag pud ana kay butya gihapon double kill. So nasunog na ang esophagus kay niagi ang acid, tapos imong gipabalik kay imuhang gipasuka. So ang tawag again double kill. Patay ang esophagus ana. Sunog ang esophagus. So we don't do that. I think dira lang ko mag-end. Next week magsugod ta sa atong redox reaction. Okay, questions so far? Let me just give you another trivia na lang sa kay naka-discuss man ta og kanang poisoning. Unsa himuon basta nakainom og gasolina ang person? Dili acid o base.
Ma'am.
Gasolina.
Joke lang.
Unsa? Sindihan?
Joke lang, ma'am.
Kasi ginahimo pag gasolina ang nainom kasi I have encountered this one also. I know someone nga accidentally nakainom siya og gasolina. Ang ginahimo nato paimnan ninyo og mantika. Mantika hanang nagamit nato magluto. That's the antidote for the poisoning sa gasolina or sa kerosene. Kasi ang gasolina man gud nga mainom, dili man jud na siya totally makadaot sa gastrointestinal tract, pero mahimo siya og life-threatening kapag kanang gasolina mahimo og gas. Di ba? Ano na sila kanang highly volatile na substance na sila, dali na sila mag-evaporate and mahimo og gas. And pag mahimo na siya og gas inside the body, ma-aspirate man gud na siya padulong sa lungs, and pag maabot na siya sa lungs, mao na ang time nga dili makaginhawa ang patient and mao na ang iyahang kamatian. Pero kung naalang gasolina sa tiyan, dili man gyud siya totally nga very life-threatening. So paimno nato siya og gasolina. Paimno nato siya og mantika class. Kay ang mantika man good is an oil nga dili volatile, di ba? Bisag i-stay lang nimo siya dinha sa gawas sa inyong balay, dili dayon mag-volatilize si mantika. And dili pud nato siya pwede paimnog tubig, wala man nagahalo ang oil ug ang tubig. So mantika pod para maghalo sila and dili na mag-volatilize ang gasolina, dili siya maabot sa lungs. So ma-excrete lang nato siya via the stool. So dili na siya life-threatening sa ato ang pasyente. That's just an additional information. Wala lang, gusto na ako siya i-share. Basit, kapila naman ko naka-encounter o nakainom o gasolina.